Yo, what's good, everyone? This is Ayo Boxing with Madiba, and we're here to discuss what's next. What is next for the welterweight division? So this is a follow-up on the video that I did of Errol Spence fighting Keith Thurman at 154 in a non-title bout. So essentially, the welterweight division is on hold once again, and this leaves the contenders at 147 in a state of unknowing. But instead of what they did last year, which was just waiting around, these guys should be fighting each other. And this past week has given us an insight on potential matchups that could happen this year. So let's take a look at each belt organization. So let's start with the IBF. Jaron Ennis is now the interim champion after defeating Karen in a lackluster 12-round fight. Despite the underwhelming performance, Ennis has now solidified his position as the mandatory for Spence's IBF belt. And the fight before that was an IBF eliminator in which Roiman Villa, in our previous video I called Roiman Villa a Colombian, but he's actually Venezuelan. So his new name on his channel is going to be Roiman the Venezuelan Villain Villa. I like that name. But he defeated Rashidi Ellis in an upset fight. What should happen next, in my opinion, is that Jaron Ennis and Roiman Villa should fight each other. I understand that they're gonna have, or that they want to have a rematch between Rashidi Ellis and Roiman Villa, but I believe Roiman Villa has earned his shot. Because if you remember, Showtime was trying to build up a fight between Jaron Ennis and Rashidi Ellis on the assumption that Rashidi Ellis was going to beat Roiman Villa. But we all know what happened there. So I think a fight between Jaron Ennis and Roiman Villa would be a fireworks type of fight. Because styles make fights, and if you see those guys fight, then you know what I mean. I believe Jaron Ennis would beat Roiman Villa, but Roiman Villa's already upset the A side. He can do it again. But still, I believe that fight should be a main event, staged in Philadelphia, and as a co-main, they should have Rashidi Ellis against probably a softer touch-up for a rebound fight. Next is the WBA. So Virgil Ortiz is supposed to fight Amanda Stanionis in the WBA Eliminator, and the winner of that fight will be the mandatory challenger for Spence's WBA belt. And if Spence does vacate that WBA belt, they're most likely going to be elevated to the official champion. But that fight got pushed back because Stanionis had an emergency medical procedure. So that fight was going to be in March, but it's looking like it's going to be in April, or maybe even later, depending on how good Stanionis feels. If that fight does get canceled, I believe that Virgil should either face Butayev, who's number 3 in the WBA, or Ugas, who is a former WBA champion. But both of those guys have been missing ever since their loss. So we'll just have to see if they do come back anytime soon. Next is the WBO. I touched on this in a previous video, but I believe that Terrence Crawford, as a WBO champion, should fight somebody in the top 10 rankings. Since Virgil is number 1 with the WBO, but he's gone the WBA route, I believe Jaron Ennis should petition to be the mandatory for the WBO, despite his rankings in the IBF, regardless. However, I don't think that's going to happen. And if Virgil's WBA route fails, then maybe he can petition to be the mandatory for Crawford's belt. Or he can fight Alexis Roca, who's number 3 in the WBO. And that fight can easily happen because they're both a Golden Boy and fight on the zone. So yeah, it's a quick, easy fight. Then you have Cody Crowley, who's ranked number 5 in the WBO. And he should either face Rashidi Ellis or Yordanis Ugas. Those guys both need rebound fights against credible opponents, in my opinion. And I believe Cody Crowley would definitely be a credible opponent. And those fights are easy to make since they're all with PBC. Then you have Blair the Flair Cobbs, who's ranked number 8 and just defeated Maurice Hooker. This guy should definitely be fighting somebody because he's must-see TV, in my opinion. He talks a lot of shit, and he'll definitely promote any fight he's in. And people would definitely tune in. mostly to see him lose, but regardless, he should be fighting somebody. And last, we'll talk about the WBC. So there's a sleeper guy, Souleymane Sissoko. He's a French contender and a WBC silver champion. He's a guy that came down from 154 to 147. He's a pure boxer with Olympic pedigree, and I believe that he would cause trouble to anybody. Every fight that he's been in the US has been on the zone, so he must be associated with Matchroom. So in that case, I believe that he deserves a fight with somebody of note within the top 15 of WBC. But if that can't happen, maybe a fight with Raul Curiel. He's the zone fighter. Not sure if he's Matchroom or Golden Boy, but he's ranked, so I believe that should be a good fight. And there's enough PBC guys in the WBC rankings that can all mix and match fights. You have Cody Crowley, Yordanis Ugas, Abel Ramos, Mario Barrios, Rashidi Ellis, Luke Santamaria, Jamal James. All those names can mix and match and just fight each other to stay active and to put on a show for the fans. Also, Me Machine is ranked, and he just came off a win against Mikhail Fox, I'm pretty sure. And then you have David Avanesian, who just lost to Terrence Crawford, a fight that I saw live in person, by the way. But both of those guys are still ranked, and they should definitely get some fights in with some people because they're both notable names at this point. And then you have Conor Benn. This guy got popped for PEDs in his upcoming fight between Chris Eubank Jr., and he's been missing ever since. But he's most likely going to return this year, despite what happened. Maybe he can get a fight with a high-profile name, since he's been talking a lot of shit too, but who knows, this is boxing, anything could happen. But thank you for tuning in with Ayo Boxing with Madiba. Hit like and subscribe, and more content's coming your way.